Oh my gosh. Okay, so it has taken us 3 months to find a time to do this. If you hear my son in the background, we've been trying to fight him for a nap to be put down. My monitor is right here.
God bless Shepherd.
Okay, we're just like praying, like, Lord, please let him go down to sleep. Of course, today of all days, he would pick to like fight his nap. Anyway.
He knows something exciting's happening.
Yeah, he wants to be a part of what's happening down here. Yeah, sure, yeah. But I'm super excited because I have my friend Karah here, who is one of the coolest people I know, I think. She is a Holy Spirit-filled, Jesus-loving believer and also is full-time in the modeling industry. Like, can you please share the job that you just did that I have been like beaming? Oh. I have been beaming just from Ohio, like cheering you on.
The Christian Siriano job?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. I just got to walk New York Fashion Week for Christian Siriano, and it's always a thrill to be involved in those kind of things because it's, you know, a lot of people know who he is and get to see that, so it's really fun.
When you said you're doing that, I was like, what?
I was texting Hannah like, pray for me, guys. I have a really important casting. Pray for me, please.
Yeah, and you freaking got it.
Yeah, it was
it's so
good.
Cool. Oh, and your outfit was beautiful.
Thanks. And it was really special because like I ended up wearing like a cross that was assigned by the designer.
Yeah.
And he had no idea my background, so that was like just so like cool. A really cool moment.
That's so cool. Oh, yeah, what was that like? Like, how do you, like, I would be so scared that I would just collapse walking down the runway. Because runway is different than, like, being photographed.
Yeah, for sure.
That's, like, totally different.
Because there's no, like, take backsies. You can't, like, do it again.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
if you fall, you're falling.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever fallen before? Walking?
No.
Wow.
No. But
I could not say that.
I feel like one of the hardest parts is you typically don't know what you're wearing until you get there. So, like, I had no idea.
Insane.
What dress, what shoes, and then you have to be willing to, like, just make it work. So.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that's
and it worked out.
It worked out. Yeah, you're definitely feeling the nerves, but I think anybody who's done, like, theater or dance or any sort of performative, I'm sure, like, worship music, same, you get, like, a little bit of nervous.
Let's not compare being on a worship team to walking the Christian Siriano.
Do you get nervous when you walk out to perform worship?
Lead worship? Not anymore. Not really. Maybe a little bit, but I'll tell you one thing. I would be having a panic attack, feeling like I was going to pass out, overheating if I were to walk a runway show, but you've been doing it for so long, so it's like second nature almost.
Not really. You never get you never get less nervous, but you get more confident, and so it carries you through the nerves, and it balances itself out, I guess.
Do you remember the moment when you got the call that you got the job?
Yeah, we had like an agency meeting the night before, and my agent, I was like, "What's it looking like? Like, I need to know, like, how's it gonna go?" And she's like, "It's looking good." And so then she texted me the next day. It was just like a text, but
it was just a text.
It was just a text.
That's so
Like,
casual.
finally, yeah, I was just in my apartment by myself, full relief. But yeah, it was so casual. It's like, just another day.
Did you do anything to celebrate when you got the job?
Took a nap, I think.
That seems like you too, yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
because you're probably exhausted. I bet the nerves were like going so intensely,
Yeah, exactly. I think I was finally able to just like rest and chill, and that felt like enough of a blessing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I wanted to know, for anyone listening or watching this, I really wanted to talk to you about this today, of like the intersection of this culture and this world and your faith, because this is not an easy culture to be in. No. When you're not just like a Christian cultural, you believe in God, but like you walk with Jesus, like that would be really hard. And I look up to you a lot, that you like felt called to this, and you just were like, you've just been going after it for so long, and just kind of what that's looked like for you. So how did you first get discovered, or like when did you know that this is something you wanted to pursue?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to watch like plus size models, and for those who don't know, like, and plus size modeling is basically anybody who's greater than like a size 6, size 4 in the modeling industry.
Size bigger than a size 4?
Yeah,
well, I'm a plus
anything,
size.
Yeah,
that's wild.
No, not. It's like different. Like when you go to a store versus modeling, but it's anything bigger than the normal like modeling size, which is like a size 0 too. So when I grew up, I was like, when I was learning to be confident and all these things, I was looking up to all these plus size models, Ashley Graham, Tara Lynn, like Robin Lawley, like all these amazing women, a lot of them that I've gotten the chance to meet and like thank for being so impactful. But I grew up like watching them like, wow, like look at these women being so confident and they're spearheading different body types.
Right.
In fashion. So I grew up with that even before I was like a Christian. I didn't get discovered until I went on a business trip with my dad to New York City, and I was only 13 at the time.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you that.
I've never heard this story.
It was the first time I ever went to a big city, and it was with my dad. And we went out to a dinner with some business guys that he was meeting with, and they were like, your daughter should be modeling. And my dad was like, absolutely not. Like, I am not putting my daughter, because at that time, like, you look back and that was the height of the Epstein, cocaine, like all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And body and positivity was not really happening. So I'm really glad he and my mom protected me from doing that. And then I told God, I was like, if it ever comes around again, I'm going to be totally open to the door that you present in front of me. So I was working another job in Cincinnati. I had graduated from college, and I was walking to the coffee shop to get coffee for the guys at work, and I just like said a little prayer, and I was like, God, I'd like an extra little job on the side to make some money. Yeah. And I walked into the coffee shop, and this woman approached me immediately and was like, you need to be modeling. And I was like, oh, what? So yeah,
this sounds like out of a movie.
Yeah, it was.
Does this happen? Like, is this how most people get discovered? Like, people coming up to them on the street?
Actually, yes. I feel like that's how most people get discovered.
I guess there wouldn't be, unless you had connections, I guess there wouldn't be like another way.
Well, it's also like modeling something that kind of finds you. It's not really something you find. I don't know. It's really hard to like, agents are like trying to, they know like what will be marketable. Like at the end of the day, your image is like something that brands are using to sell clothes. So
there's literally people that just, their job is to go out in the streets and like look at people.
Scouts. They'll fly all over the country and go to malls and all sorts of things. Volleyball tournaments. Yep.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. That is kind of creepy, honestly.
Yeah.
But cool. But super cool.
Yeah. I know a few girls who have sought out modeling and it's gone really well for them.
Okay.
It's just most of the time it kind of finds you.
So that moment that she came and said you should model, was that like, oh my gosh, okay, God, like this is what you're calling me to do?
Yeah, that was the moment I said yes. And then I went back and I was like, I'm going to call her back. And she called me like 4 times. She wouldn't stop calling me until I agreed to like go in and meet with them. Whoa. So I was like, I felt really, it was really great.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What was your first job ever?
Scrubs. Nursing scrubs. Yeah.
That's
in
awesome.
Cincinnati. And it was my wonderful friend Erin Leeper, who's also a Christian, that she casted me for that job and then helped start my entire career of me starting to work. So that was nursing scrubs for Northwestern Hospital. Really,
that is hilarious.
Pushed me into the realm of modeling.
And look, here you are. You just walked New York Fashion Week. Here we go. That is awesome.
I would love to see those pictures of scrubs.
Oh, that's yeah. So when you started pursuing modeling and you started, taking these jobs, you were in a Christian community. Mm-hmm. So a lot of like Christians specifically have mixed views on this whole industry. Like a lot of people are really black and white about it, and they think it's vain or selfish or self-centered, whatever. First of all, I think the Lord can operate everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you're called to something and you're partnering with the Holy Spirit, you're going to work to see the kingdom come. And so I've held you in such high respect because it literally feels like you're on the front lines in culture. Like, just
Thanks.
you're in the world and you're being a light in the world, literally.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see that. But when you started to pursue this, did you get pushback from Christian community? Like, what was that like for you, kind of like reconciling, God's leading me to do this, but it's not the norm. It's not normally what I'm seeing.
I mean, I got a couple really great prophetic words before I started about modeling specifically that like helped me feel a lot of confirmation about it.
That's so cool.
One from our dear friend, Micah.
I want to have him on.
Yeah, that would be so amazing.
Crazy.
He told me that God was going to bless me in my modeling stuff. And then I had gotten a prophetic word, like the first prophetic word I got ever, that God was going to put me in front of a camera. So there was like a lot of like Christian affirmation that went along with it. Yeah. I think the hardest part of it was watching the community reconcile with what I'm doing. I think now so much time has passed, but definitely there's a lot of questions about modesty and vanity and things like that. And I had to decide with myself what I was comfortable with, like straight from the beginning. Yeah. And those are like boundaries that I've told my agents like straight from from the beginning, like, this is not going to change. Like, this is what
Yeah.
and when you actually start modeling, they give you a sheet usually of like, are you okay modeling with tobacco? Are you okay modeling with alcohol? They like
Wow.
ask you like, are you okay with furs? Are you okay with nudity? Like, these are all questions they usually ask you when they sign you.
Wow.
So it made it really easy to set some boundaries.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I definitely
Wow.
feel like there are Christians that have a hard time reconciling it because it's just so unknown. Like, it's just, and this might be pushing boundaries for some people, but I feel like sometimes Christian culture really wants to stay within what's safe. And I think there's something like really beautiful in that of like trying to stay safe, but this is outside of the realm of like what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, it's not culturally like, I mean, we're from Ohio.
Yeah, I think that everyone has different values, and there's definitely Christians in my life that value like modesty way more than I do. And so
Yeah.
being my friend was maybe I wasn't someone they wanted to have in their life because of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, if that's your value, like, that's like, you have to go off of what feels right to you. So if
When you say modesty, what do you think of when you think of modesty? Like, what's your definition of that?
I don't know, like, it's so hard because for me, it's like all about like heart posture. Like, is the way you dress to allure somebody sexually, or is the way you dress as an adoration of just yourself and enjoyment, you know? And so a lot of people have like more rigid definitions of like, well, I don't want to show this, or I don't want to show like, you know, maybe even their arms or whatever.
Right.
Everybody has different standards. So for me, I think it's just more about the heart posture between the way that I'm dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's like the line between religion and walking with Jesus, and not a rigid. I mean, like, cultural Christianity or religion is so much more about control. Yeah. And then walking with Jesus and like living your life with Jesus is, I mean, if you really read the Bible and if you do life with Jesus, you can see that he lives in the gray area a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like contradictions in the Bible, and it really kind of positions you in a place to have a relationship with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Or else you get confused all the time.
Yeah. And you're going to probably, like, if you're willing to go in the gray area, you're probably going to fail. Like, I know I've done, I'm like, look back and like, God, that I didn't do that right, you know?
Yeah.
But like, God has so much grace for us. Like, we're allowed to, he would, I think, like, at least with his relationship with me, I know he's encouraging of me.
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries, I guess, exploring. But I think what I'm more afraid of than being immodest, I'm afraid of feeling shame. And I like think back to like Adam and Eve. It's like they were naked and they felt no shame.
Yeah.
And I think so often in Christian culture and culture in general, we feel so much shame about our bodies.
Yeah.
And that can be more powerful than immodesty. Like, you're like, you can be modest and not shameful, but like, that's something I'm always kind of have in my head is, do I feel shameful about myself?
Yeah.
Am I comfortable with myself?
And when you say nakedness, I assume you're thinking of like, you work with American Eagle and Aerie and like, you know.
I model lingerie, which is like crazy for like most Christians. I feel really comfortable in it. I feel okay with it. For me, it's like maintaining shamelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, your heart posture when you model lingerie, you're not seeking out for men to find those photos. And like, of course, with anything, when you put yourself out there in any way, people that are twisted and that are broken are going to, you know, use anything for a negative purpose. Like, literally anything. You could apply that to anything.
Yeah.
But you model with, I would say, like a heart to want to empower women to feel confident in their bodies, right? Like, that's your heart posture.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
was so valuable.
It is. I like, when I was reconciling whether to do lingerie or not, I was like, why am I doing it? I'm doing it for women because I want to see like her see me and be like, okay, I can be confident and I can feel beautiful. And I feel like every woman wants to, I mean, it's probably also countercultural. We want to feel hot. Like, we want to feel
Absolutely.
good. So just if I, as a different body type, can inspire that, I felt like that was worth stepping out in the gray area.
I've had a hard time reconciling as a Christian. Like, is it good or is it bad to want to feel hot?
Yeah.
Is that bad? You know?
That's a great
Is that
question.
like, am I being lustful? And it's like, I'm not wanting to allure other people. I want to feel that way for myself and also just like my husband.
Yeah.
But I think there's just, I don't know. It's a topic that for me as a Christian woman, I'm just like, it feels like there's a lot of shame around it for Christian women. And I've always had a hard time with that. Because I think that if we follow the God of the universe, and if he created everything, including sex,
right,
then we should be the most empowered. We should be the most confident in it, I guess. But yeah, that's interesting to hear your process about how you like kind of processed, should I do lingerie or not?
Right.
Like, did you end up deciding if I didn't do it, it would be because I would think it would be the Christian thing to do, but after going on a Holy Spirit process with it, you were just like, it's about heart posture.
Yeah.
Which sounds so much like him.
Yeah. I'm like,
that sounds so much like him.
Yeah. And, and I also like talked to my husband about it, and he felt fine with it and everything too. But yeah, it just felt like the right thing to do. Like I felt comfortable with it. So
good.
Which is a unique position to be in front of like 35 plus people of different genders. Shooting lingerie, and honestly, it's some of the least sexual environments I've been in. Like, it's honestly,
wow.
I'm like, oh, it sounds crazy, but I'm like, this is what heaven's gonna look like. We're gonna be like naked, and it's not gonna be sexual, and it's gonna be free, and we're gonna be able to just be the way we are. I sound like a nudist now, but
well, you haven't shot nude before.
No, I never have.
So when you say nakedness, you just mean like being
in lingerie in a way that you would not walk out in society.
What do you feel like is a primary attack from the enemy on people in this industry, and like how have you had to wrestle with the Lord through that?
Yeah. So I feel like Satan's not very unique. I feel like he does things like he's very clear, right? Like he's like seeks to kill, destroy, and rob us in any aspect of our life.
Right.
And anything you'll find in this industry, you'll find in a church, you know. There's people who do drugs, there's people who have sexual sin and pride and all sorts of things. But I definitely see like a lot of lack of contentment.
Wow.
Because you're always faced with, like, fashion is a trend, and what comes and goes changes. And there's an aspect of that you can't really control. Like, as a photographer, you might have a certain lighting style that's not in trend right now. Or somebody gets a magazine you don't get, or fashion takes off in one way. And there's an aspect of it in any creative way that you really don't have control over. So it's really easy to, like, covet, like, what somebody else has.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that's hard about being in this industry for anybody who works in it, whether they're a photographer, designer, whatever, is like you experience so much isolation because you're traveling so much. Yeah. You're by yourself a lot. I might work 5 days in 5 different cities with 5 different crews, and I might not know anybody on those crews. Wow. So it's really easy for like the enemy to come in because you're alone, right? Like, and that's like, when Jesus was tempted, he was alone.
Right. How have you like come in and out of that? How have you dealt with?
Yeah. I mean
we're talking about this you just had last week, which, you know, was difficult.
What happened? Oh, about isolation.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a lot like the video that you had that just popped off, where it was like kind of, you know, I feel like at least with me, like Satan always starts as a whisper. He starts like really quiet, and it's like thoughts I'm having that I don't even like am conceptualizing, and it's so much easier when you're alone. And he's like, you're alone. You're wasting your life. No one, you know, he just starts spitting all these things. And before you know it, it's getting louder and louder. And I think the quicker you can just learn to like cut that off at the root.
Yes.
And be like,
so good.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm not thinking this.
I'm done. I love that. I'm using that. I'm done. Yeah, you know what? I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done with that.
Yeah, like, and it's crazy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this with you right now.
I'm tired for this right now.
I know where this ends. We've been down this road.
Literally.
It's going to cost me $90 to go to therapy over this, so I might as well just cut it off now.
Oh my gosh.
But
that's hilarious.
I think that's a great way, like what you know, like just what your video is about.
The spiritual discernment of like, oh, this is clearly a thought from the enemy versus a thought from the Lord. So like for your process with that, and this is a whole other topic, but like how do you discern what is the enemy's voice versus what the Lord's voice is in your life?
Well, I'm not a pastor, so I feel very nervous about answering these questions.
Oh, but I guess
The fruit of the Spirit. Is this breeding peacefulness? Is this breeding love? Is this, and then if it's not, then I'm like, this is not God. What is the fruit of this thought? Like, if this is only gonna, because there are definitely emotions you have, like, that you need to go to counseling about, and there is ways that but usually when I come to the, like, negative realization, like, oh, I feel alone, I have, like, peace in that thought, because I'm like, I feel alone, like, this is something I need to, I don't know if you feel this way, there's, like, a totally two different things of, like, I feel alone, and I'm alone, and no one wants to be around me, you know?
I would say it's just having normal human emotion that the enemy is not sneaking in and saying lies about it.
How do you discern?
When a thought starts to take root in my mind, and I start to build a belief system or a mindset around that fearful thought, that is when I'm like, that's taking root. That's starting to build frame of mind. That's starting to build a filter how I see the world.
Right.
That needs to get out.
Right.
So it's not even just like random thoughts like what you were saying, like I feel alone. It's like, okay, yeah, you can feel alone. Like feeling alone, feeling sad, feeling angry, those aren't inherently bad things.
They're
like
ways that Jesus felt.
Yeah, you shouldn't, Christians shouldn't just feel like happy, joyful, smiley people all the time, like, because that's not real life.
Right.
But it's when the enemy picks up on us feeling maybe low and then starts to speak lies like no one loves you, like if you're alone, no one loves you. No one cares about you. You're forgotten. You're easily, you know, whatever the lies may be. If those start to take root in my mind, but I would say that the more, maybe you resonate with this, but the more I practice that of like identifying those thoughts and then like rebuking them, the easier it gets and the quieter they become. Like I'll notice something go through my head and I'm like,
like
seriously?
Immediately no.
Like immediately no.
Immediately no.
I'm done. You know, just like, what? Sometimes I'll have a thought where I'm just like, are you kidding me right now?
Like, enemy, what? Like that's what I'm saying.
How many times have you told that to me?
His tactics are not new. Like
he's so uncreative.
Yeah, like he says the same things like you know, to everybody. It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what you're doing.
Oh man. Yeah. But I think any thought that's not attached to hope.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or that's fear. It's just fear versus hope and peace.
Yeah.
That's literally it. It's like if I have a thought, a random, and then there's like you get into the whole mental health thing, which is like I got a ton of hate about that, which is like I've walked through mental health for 10 years.
Right.
And I've gone through many different forms of it, and I'm a huge believer in counseling and medication and all that stuff. But intrusive thoughts are like a normal part of being a human.
Right.
Some people have it way more extreme than others because of chemical imbalances in the brain and whatever. But there is a spiritual component to that. Yeah. And as soon as those intrusive thoughts, if they start to begin to take root and you start to think, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm twisted, you know, blah, 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 which another way I like to think about like discerning those thoughts is, this sounds kind of funny, but if I were to turn the wording of this from like this is the lie, nobody loves me. So if I turn that and I phrase it differently, no one loves you. Yeah, you're immediately like, I'm like, oh, that's what a bully would say to someone. Who would say that? Yeah. That's a really bad, like, would I ever say that to some? No. Like, that's crazy that we like agree with thoughts that we wouldn't even speak to other people, but we let ourselves. I know. It's so much easier to believe the crap than it is to, it's a lot more of a fight to believe the positive things. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, wait, let me look at my questions. I'm so glad that Shepherd is asleep. Oh my gosh. Did he fall asleep? Yeah. Amazing. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Do you have any really cool, like, God stories of something happening in your career with another person or a moment and like just within your career in this industry, like a testimony, I guess? I already said one, but the Christian Karah thing with the necklace, with the cross necklace, that was just such an encouragement to me. Yeah. And even some of the other girls that have walked his show like many years, they're like, hey, like, remember you need to take your personal jewelry off. And I was like, this isn't my personal jewelry. And they were like, I'm sorry, like I was just so confused because this designer like never does jewelry like that. Wow. And I was the only girl of like 40 girls that had a cross necklace. So it's things like that that the Lord does to like little encouragements. One time I prayed and told God I wanted to go to Hawaii, and I literally got a text within an hour that I was booked on a job in Hawaii. No way. Yeah. So that is so cool. He's done little encouragement things like that. That's so cool.
I feel like one of the biggest joys of doing this is getting to like do it with God and co-create this, journey with him. The first prophetic word I got about putting me in front of a camera.
Yeah.
They said that God said he was going to be my PR man. And since the beginning,
Wow.
I've said, God's my agent. God is the one that is at the end of the day.
That's so cool. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so goes to show you that God cares about the little things. Like,
oh, for
you
sure.
just need to ask, like, I would love to go to Hawaii. Like, I'm looking at my arched doorway. We're in my living room and we're looking at my arched doorway. And the day before we got this house, I prayed and I said, Lord, I would just love a house with an arched doorway.
Yeah.
And then we saw this house and we got it. And I was like, he didn't have to give me an arched doorway.
But, like, that's so uncommon.
I know. But I just was like, I asked him for it, though.
He's like, he just delights in giving us good.
I know.
Just for the sake of it.
I know.
Yeah.
He's such a good dad. That's awesome.
It's cool. I mean, I've got to talk to other girls in this industry that are Christians and have good conversations. Like, I remember one time specifically, like, shooting Skims and, like, walking back, and there was another girl in the dressing room, and we're both in lingerie, and she's reading her Bible, and we're, like, having a conversation about God back in the dressing room.
Wow.
So there's been, like, a lot of really cool moments with him showing up and being present.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. There's one topic that I want you to touch on because I think you have a unique position in that you're a plus-size model. First time I saw Karah, my friend, so we're friends because of a mutual friend that goes to our church. She was, this friend has said, oh my gosh, you would love Karah. You guys would get along so well. And I was like, I'd love to meet her. I think she's so cool.
We would get along great.
And the first time we went to dinner, I remember sitting down at dinner and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. She's a model. Yeah, that checks out. That checks out.
Oh,
she's just absolutely. It's so true. I think everyone is beautiful all the time, but like I remember seeing you and just being like, yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
That's kind.
That checks out. But yeah, you're in a unique position in that. Yeah. And I think, if you're interested in sharing this, it's kind of a scary topic to talk about, but just like, but I'm curious because you're in this industry, like you are seeing the whole like body positivity, thing happening. And I'm just curious, like, what is your view on what's happening right now? Like as a plus size model, like what's your view, especially as a believer, about this kind of movement that's happening?
We've been going back to more like 2000 standards. A lot of plus size models are getting smaller, and like a lot of brands are cutting off larger size ranges. I really believe that every person is beautiful and that we should all feel beautiful beyond size. We are made in the image of God, or we are literally a temple for him. And to hate the temple of God is like, learn to love your skin, So
how do you walk through that? Like, what has your challenge been as someone who thinks that you need to love your body? Your body's a temple. Like, that's not a common concept for people in your industry at all.
It's not. And I will say I've worked with a lot of skinny models. I've worked with models bigger than me. I've every body size. You can hate your body at any size. You could be skinny. Like, there is not.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's like, you can't like be like, if I lose weight, then I'll love myself. If I change my hair color, like that is a never ending rabbit hole. And it's really back to heart posture. Yeah. Your heart posture about yourself is saying that I don't accept myself the way as I am. I would be better if I was different. And I think you really have to be careful of falling into that mindset, because it's a never ending, you're never going to be good enough then if you're always chasing some
so true.
Change,
In closing, if you could go back in time and give yourself like 3 pieces of advice.
Oh man.
What would it be?
I think the first one would be to be patient. I was so eager and I like wanted everything all at one time.
Yeah.
And I think can be good, but also just it led me to being frustrated for a lot of my career. And then the second one, probably have a little bit more trust in myself and a little less trust in everyone else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that.
Eek. I just feel like when you're young and you're new to modeling, you want it so bad that you're just like, I'm not sure if like everybody had the purest intentions or said the truth to me when I first started. I think that I like felt gut feelings about stuff. Even just the agency I'm with now, like from the beginning, like set the tone. This is what we're doing. We're on the same page. Like just being a little bit more directive in my career, but I guess you earn that with time.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wish I would have known to trust myself a little bit more. The third one's just practical. I wish I would have signed in Europe earlier, or like quicker in my career. I think that would have been a fun adventure. Totally side note with modeling. They often spend the first 6 months of their career in Australia, France, something like that to get experience and
so cool.
images and stuff. And thank God I kind of started off like running and working in the United States, and I kind of like missed that window. And I think that would have been really fun. But
that's like you'll practical. Still do that?
If it arrives. It's hard when
Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah, literally, I'm like, let's all go.
It's happening right now, right?
Yeah, it's happening right now. But yeah, I think that would have been fun to do. But I'm also grateful that I got to work right away. And then once you're more established, it's really hard to leave like where you're established.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anyone who is a believer, but they feel called to something that is not like an overtly Christian thing, like business, fashion, the beauty industry, whatever. Like you feel like, I really feel like I am passionate about this, but it looks different than the people around me.
Yeah.
And what would you, if they were sitting right here in this room, what would you tell them? What would your encouragement be?
My encouragement would be that God is a good dad. And he loves us, and he loves watching us do what we love.
Yeah.
And I'm timid to say this, but I don't know if I really believe in callings. Like, I'm not even sure that modeling was my calling.
Okay.
I think it was something that I loved. And I didn't grow up with Christian parents, but I remember my dad saying from a really young age, like, I don't care what you do as long as you're happy and you help people. He's like, if that's a trash man, it's a trash man. And I think that that's the way that God looks at us. Like, as long as you're happy and you're doing, like, something that's going to help. I think God just likes to see us do what we like.
Yeah.
So my encouragement would be to not be afraid. And you're going to meet some really great people along the way that aren't Christian and don't fit into your stereotype. And it's just like, there's a humanity aspect of it where you get to really love people heart to heart, regardless of what they believe. And it's like, going to be a great adventure. So I would encourage them to go into the gray area.
That's a really interesting thing that you say that you're not sure if you believe in callings. Because I think that it does put a lot of pressure on things that we pursue as believers. Like, I really care about this, and I feel like this is maybe my mission or my calling. But if you look at anything, like, is this the one thing that God has intended? I don't think that, like, there's only one thing for any of us. Like, I think that as long as we're connected to the Lord, He's going to lead us through or lead us to many different pursuits and many different missions and many different, like, callings.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that you say that. And I totally agree. It's an interesting thing that it's something that I've learned as I mature in my faith, that God cares about, like, those things. It's still hard for me sometimes. If my son, now being a parent, if my son was super passionate about, like, race car driving or something. Yeah. Like, he really wanted to be a race car driver. I would, as his parent, I would be, like, so supportive. So as a Christian, like, the line between that and then also, like, being on a mission as a Christian, like, and wanting to love on people in those dark places. Yeah. Like, how have you found balance in that?
I just love talking to people that believe totally different. It's so fun.
I think that's so, like, that's such a quality of Jesus, though, to be not threatened or scared or triggered by people that believe differently than you. Like, that is such an essential part of being a believer, like, that we have to carry our peace wherever we go. And if we're, like, threatened or triggered or, like, heightened when someone doesn't believe what we believe, like, that's just, like, not how that's how Pharisees would act. Yeah. Not how Jesus acted. Yeah. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I think that's really cool.
And they're not Christians, so I don't hold them to the standards that I hold myself, and, like, have no judgment for anybody I work with, and just, like, want to show them love usually. So
that's awesome. I love that so much.
I think any job you do, you can do that, and you have way better chances talking to non-Christians when you're working in a non-Christian job. And I don't think that God has, like, a hierarchy of, like, occupations.
Like, you're more pleasing to Him if you're a pastor versus what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's
which
really
is
good.
like just like a standard Christian thing, like the highest. And that's where I think callings get dangerous, because it's like the highest calling you can have is to be a mother or to be a this, or and there's so many aspects of that are outside of people's control.
Like there's not a biblical construct that's like, if you're out in the world, you're on this, level in the pyramid. And
Biblical caste system. Yeah.
If you're a pastor, if you're a worship leader, then you're more pleasing. And that's something I always wrestled with, because my parents were in full-time ministry, and they're amazing, and I love my parents. But I walked away when I moved out of the house. I walked away with this mindset, not because of anything they ever said to me, but that I wasn't really pleasing to God if I wasn't like a missionary or a pastor, and I love ministry. I love, obviously, that's like my platform is talking about the Lord.
Yeah.
So I love ministry, but I had to reconcile, like, God, are you still pleased with me if I choose to not be a pastor? If I choose to not be in full-time ministry, do you still love me the same?
Right.
It's just interesting, yeah.
I mean, I went through that, and I didn't even grow up Christian, wondering the same questions.
I wonder if a lot of Christians go through that.
I would imagine so. But the thing is, like, now, I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want to be a minister, because they're held to higher standards than I could ever. I don't want to be held to the standards. Like, God bless the pastors and ministers, because, like,
it's a lot of pressure.
So do you believe in callings?
I think that God designed us all uniquely. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we are each a copy and paste of the other person. I think that, like, you are skilled and anointed to be in the industry you're in. I am skilled and anointed for other things. I think the Lord anoints us and gives us giftings for different things. As far as the physical thing itself, like the job or the whatever, I don't think that there's one true thing. I think it's like finding things that are within our skill set, God-given skill set, and our God-given anointings. Like my through line of everything I've always pursued, what makes me come alive, and I believe how God wired me, is encouraging and empowering women specifically. And that's been, no matter what industry, no matter what job I've had, when there has been that component of that, I have thrived. Yeah. So I know that no matter what job I have, if that component is there, I will feel like I'm operating within my God-given anointing. Does that make sense?
No, I completely agree. I feel like anytime somebody has asked me, like, what should I do with my life? I'm like, if you're trying to be like, God, tell me to be a firefighter versus God, you're asking the wrong question.
You need to know your identity.
You need to know your identity.
How did He wire you?
Yes. What is your purpose? Like, what do you want? And for me, it's very similar. I think that's where we get on so well is it's empowering and helping women increase confidence in themselves. And that's more than just body stuff. That's be able to do podcasting, be able to, whatever it is to get after it. And I think God has given us different missions in that way, but as the physical thing itself, it's not one way for that to materialize.
No, I don't think so, because for example, I was in the beauty industry for years, and that I was convinced this is my thing. Yeah. This is my thing, which it could very well still be in the future. Right. But I chose when I got pregnant, and I was I couldn't be on my feet all day anymore. Being so pregnant, I chose to leave that job. Right. If I have the mentality that the beauty industry is my calling, and I'm now a mom, not in the beauty industry, then I'm going to feel depressed.
Because you're going to feel like you missed it.
Right. Yeah. I'll feel like I missed it.
And you're outside of God's will, which
which is not the truth. Yes, exactly. It's not the truth. The truth is that the Lord is my guide. Yeah. And there was a season for that, and there may be another season for that in my future. But the season I'm choosing right now is to be a mother and to pursue other things that I'm also passionate about that I didn't have the time to do when I was working that job. Right. So, yeah, I don't think I missed it. Do I miss the job and the industry itself? Yeah. But I know, because I know this is what makes me come alive, is helping women, like what you said, feel more confident and walking in the fullness of who they are is literally, that's the passion.
Yeah, it's so easy.
So this is the same thing. Yeah. It's just a different form.
Right. I completely agree. That's how I feel too. Yeah. When modeling ends, I'll find the next iteration, and it'll be fun to co-create whatever that is with God. So. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Well, this was awesome, even though it was super chaotic with kind of...
It was unscripted, if you will.
Yes. Well played.
Yeah.
It was very unscripted.
In the best kind of way. Thanks,
In
Hannah.
many, many ways. This was so awesome just to talk to you about this stuff. And of course, like we've talked about it before, just hanging out.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I'm like thinking of all of the main points of the things that we talked about. And I'm like, if there's anyone out there that feels like you're going to miss your calling or miss your mission, if you're connected to the Holy Spirit, you're not going to miss anything. And it may look different, but if you look different than the people around you, you're a pioneer. That's something God has anointed you to do, is to be a pioneer for your culture and your community. And so don't dim yourself and what you feel passionate and called to do because you are comparing yourself to those around you. Like, you cannot hold yourself to the same standard as other people's callings and missions that are different than yours. Like, you have to get into the place with the Lord and your close friends and family where you know what you're supposed to pursue, and like a seasonal, like it could be a seasonal thing, doesn't have to be like your end all be all. But I don't know, I just feel like if there's anyone out there that feels like, oh, I shouldn't do this because it's not my culture, like, I think that's what the enemy would want you to do, actually.
Yeah,
because I think
you to stay safe.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, being safe and being comfortable in life's it's not sinful and bad, but I think that if you choose not to go after something because you're scared or it looks too different, I think that's exactly what the enemy would want. Yeah. So I think the Lord has called us to be brave. He's called us to be pioneers. As long as you have him by your side, we can do anything. We'll get through anything. So this was awesome, Karah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. It was fun.
Episode 2.
Hey.
2. Brand spanking new, baby. Episode 2. We'll be posting the video version of this to YouTube, and definitely let us know in the comments, like, what hit you the hardest out of everything that we talked about. Yeah. And maybe we can elaborate on it.
That'd be fun.
At another point.
All right.
We'll see you guys next time, and thank you for watching / listening. Right. Bye. We did it! Oh my gosh, only took us 3 hours.